In the city of Kiambini, there lived a couple named Mr. and Mrs. Odori, who were wealthy and successful. They were admired by many in the community. Mr. and Mrs. Odori were known for their kindness, humility, and respect. They would help the community by addressing medical and educational issues and sometimes providing food. The Odoris were blessed with one beautiful child, but due to birth complications, Mrs. Odori was unable to have another child. They worked hard to provide the best education for their daughter, Colista. Colista was caring, loving, and obedient lady, and she loves assisting her parents with their business and community work. She was well liked by the community, as she was seen as different from other wealthy children who were lazy, arrogant. Colista has only one friend, Brianna, whom she has been friends with since childhood. Despite being born into different backgrounds, they have remained close. Colista took care of her friend and made sure she received the best education. Additionally, Colista's parents opened a business for Brianna's parents so they could manage it successfully. Colista went abroad for university to pursue a business course with the intention of returning home to manage her parents' business. She excelled in her studies abroad and made her parents proud. After several years, Colista returned home, and her parents organized a celebration to mark her homecoming and the achievement of her dreams. Colista was excelling in her parents' business and had managed to expand it, despite facing numerous competitors. She was focused on achieving her goals every day. Her employees were impressed by the company's accomplishments and growth. However, Colista was so consumed by work that she had no time for enjoyment. Concerned about her well-being, her parents suggested that she get married, so that she could have someone to share the workload. Colista had an idea. She proposed to disguise herself as a poor woman to find out who would love her for herself and not for her wealth. Her parents were initially apprehensive, but eventually trusted her and made her promise to keep in touch with them regularly. The next day, she left the city with the simple clothes she had purchased and arrived in the city of Majengo. It was different from her hometown. The city was less developed, with poorly constructed roads, houses, and schools. Colista was able to find a place to live and also a job. She started working as a waitress, even though the pay wasn't great. She accepted the job because her priorities were different. Colista was dedicated to her work, which impressed her employer, Mrs. Anderson. One day, as Colista was working, a young, handsome man named Stanley approached her. "Hello, miss. I have never seen you in this area. Are you new?" Colista looked at him and just smiled. "I'm Stanley. What about you?" he asked.
"I'm Colista,"
she replied. "Nice meeting you," Stanley said. Stanley was mesmerized by her beauty and couldn't take his eyes off her. He thought to himself, "I must make sure she becomes my wife." Stanley waited for Colista's shift to end. As she was done changing her attire, Stanley called her. "Colista, can I have a moment?" She stopped to listen to him. "I'm sorry to disturb you. I know you're tired. Can we go for a cup of coffee or dinner and talk if you don't mind?" Colista agreed. Stanley took Colista to a 5-star hotel which she loved because it was classy and entertaining. They ordered their favorite meals and drinks and continued to get to know each other as they chatted and laughed. To Colista's surprise, Stanley owned these hotels. From that day, they became good friends and ended up being boyfriend and girlfriend. Their feelings and love grew deeper and stronger, and they were inseparable. Stanley introduced Colista to his parents, and they loved her. One day, Stanley asked Colista about her family, but she didn't answer him right away. It's not that she didn't trust him, but she wasn't sure if he was ready to know her true identity because he knew her only as a waitress. After taking a deep breath, Colista confessed,
"Stanley, I haven't been honest with you. This isn't my city, and I'm not a waitress. I came here to find true love, someone who would know me for who I am."
She then told him everything about her real background, shocking Stanley, who had not expected her to be successful and wealthy. Composing himself, he said, Callista, I'm hurt that you didn't tell me everything about you. Did you not trust me, or did you not love me? Callista was surprised by Stanley's words and left angrily. She went to their favorite spot and sat there in deep thought, not noticing that Stanley was standing behind her. He approached and hugged her, apologizing and expressing his love for her, assuring her that her background or status didn't matter to him. Callista was happy with Stanley's words, and they reconciled, deciding to visit Callista's hometown to meet her parents. She made sure to alert them about their upcoming visit. Callista's parents were thrilled with the news and immediately began making preparations. Meanwhile, Stanley was ready to propose to her in front of her family and friends. The following day, they started their journey and drove to Callista's home. They were greeted with music and dance, and both family and friends were invited. Callista's parents were happy to meet the man who had won her heart. As they got to know Stanley, he took the opportunity to propose to Callista, and she excitedly accepted. This marked the beginning of their journey as husband and wife, celebrated in a colorful ceremony. They were blessed with beautiful children and lived happily ever after. The end.